Welcome back to Ty and That Guy. I am Wes Chatham. This is my good friend Ty Franck. We have the lovely Cara Gee and the wonderful, multi-talented Shohreh.
You said it.
I like to say the adequate Cara Gee and the transcendent Shohreh.
The above mediocre Cara Gee. And
I should never
the queen herself.
That's fair.
I think it's fair,
I mean,
right?
Yeah.
I
absolutely
do
fair.
Cara, we should thank them for having
Thanks
us.
for having
Thank you
us.
so
Oh
much.
yes,
Thank you so
yes.
much.
I'm sorry about.
We
I'm sorry
Screwed
about.
a
I
line.
should have put more energy into it. I'm sorry.
We call our new
Cara
show.
Gee!
Our new show is called Between Two Idiots.
That's me, two idiots. That's what it is. Yeah. I just want to start by saying I think I was just blown away by your performance. I texted you after I saw it, and I out of any performance on any season of The Expanse, any show, this I felt like was one of the best things that I've seen. And your confidence and your swagger and your style, but coupled with this vulnerability and this newfound empathy, it was so powerful and so well done. And I was just floored by it. And particularly this episode when you're walking with the guards on each side and you're making this apex moment of this meeting of these two of my favorite characters. I'm most excited about this after show than any that we've done so far. And I just wanted to say that before we started. It's just such beauty.
Thank you so much, Wes. I'm so humbled and speechless. Honored, really. Receiving it from a colleague, an amazing actor himself, I will take it seriously, and I thank you very much. It was an amazing. Cara and I were looking forward to this meeting
For years.
Yeah.
How many years? 3, 4 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because we saw each other in the corridors like, I hope they're gonna
write us.
do it together. And finally, and the walk you're referring to, it comes from a long time of waiting for this meeting.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that what I love about the couple of last episodes in season 6, the fact is that we see the array of hopes. And this one, I know what I'm gonna do in this one. That's why I'm heading there hopeful to be able to make this come through. And that was the motivation behind the walk. Like, let's go do it. Let's work with Cara, such an amazing actress, and let's run the lines that amazing, brilliant writers.
Don't
have
point at
written
him.
for us.
Don't point at me.
Writers. The novelists, I should
Yeah.
say, because you're really the novelists, right? And also you wrote for, right? You helped writing the episodes.
Right. I improv all my lines, so I don't know. I make them up on the fly. But I think this is a perfect episode to have you guys here because the climax of you guys meeting and then everything that you guys went through. Ty was saying earlier, and you probably want to kind of go into about their path to get to this meeting that they have.
Well, we were talking about the fact, and Cara and I were talking about this last night, that they had to be beat up to this point. To create this space where, Shohreh started out with the earth must come first, screw everybody else. Drummer starts out with belt first, screw everybody else. And both of them, see their worldview attacked, see their worldview beat up, and have their own lives and characters and families beat up to the point where they reach this, finally there's this moment where their two streams can cross and they can say, maybe we could try cooperating now. Yeah. And it's such, think of how many seasons we've gone through to get to that moment that can happen, because that could never have happened before. Mm-hmm. Like if you put Shohreh or if you put Avasarala in front of Drummer any earlier season, Drummer's just gonna shoot her. Like there's no conversation. Yeah, she's gonna take her out. And I'm watching these two actresses that I've been working with for many years now have that moment together where they finally can reach across the aisle.
Can you talk about that moment, because you're completely out of choices and you have that, and you're going through and you're like, I can wait till the bounty gets raised and die and everything, but talk about where your mindset is and having zero choices at this place.
Yeah, I feel like
every season I'm like, oh no, this is rock bottom for drummer. And then it's like, oh no, this now, okay, no, this is definitely rock bottom. No, okay, wait, hang on. I thought the robot legs was rock bottom way back in the day.
That was foreplay.
Chill. So definitely, I mean, she's lost her family. She's lost everything. You know, we go from that fabulous sequence where she says goodbye to her family and it's a punch in the face, and then she's, you know, making her way back to the ships, and Sandrani is like, fuck you, there's Pat, and she's like, oh, takes that hit, and she gets back to her ship, and there's fucking Naomi, and she's like, boom, that one. So she's truly just like raw nerves. She has nothing left. I think there's actually that sort of warrior sense of being already dead with her, actually, because she has truly nothing. And that's the only place that, there's no place for me in the whole vast expanse, like, to have no place truly. And that's the only possible way that this meeting can happen, from drummer's perspective, is that this is the only option to move forward, the only option. So that's where she's coming from.
And you're
up
right.
to that.
It could. Ty is right. I mean, the novelist is right. Yeah. It could have not happened earlier.
Once every now and then, right?
It could have not happened a couple of years before.
No.
Because of the fact that each woman was to her own sort of victory, become successful. It was all about them. Mm-hmm. They've now turned into people. They've both suffered, losing families, friends, colleagues. And they're both sick and tired of these nonsense wars. Mm-hmm. They are ready. They are very ready for this meeting. Yeah. Perhaps Amos Burton never thought about alliances before.
Yeah, definitely not with the belt.
Not with the belts.
Yeah.
But now that they have both suffered and they're both with the people, trying to help the people, work for the people, stand by the people, they try to understand each other. Like, I'm dying to see what she thinks. When Amos Burton gets closer to you and you say, oh, you came here. And she says, would you have come to me?
Yeah.
What's the answer? The real answer.
Oh, absolutely not. There's no way. Absolutely not. You know, it's all I can do to stand there. And I think that's something that we've seen that is true about Drummer throughout the seasons, is that she's like physically unable to compromise.
Yes.
Yeah.
She just cannot.
And that's why you're in that position. That's what's beautiful about it, is because you're like, I cannot be a part of what Marco's doing. But I am not going to be a part. And then, you know, to be able to stand by what you believe in, to your life is at risk.
Yes. And to say, I'm not, like, we can work together, but I'm not going to compromise.
Yeah, but then she reasons with you.
Yeah.
Then she tells you as to why you should help, no matter what you think.
And it makes
But right now we need to form an alliance.
Yes, and that's the only way. That's the only way.
My favorite version of two powerful people meeting like that is when neither of them gives an inch, but they find a way to work together. Mm-hmm. And so you're always trying to write to those moments, neither of them gives up anything, but there's still this way that they find a way to work together. Mm-hmm. And these two characters, neither of them is backing down. You're talking about like the most powerful person in the solar system and the angriest person in the solar system. They're not backing down, right? And the only way for them to move forward together is to realize, oh, I'm never going to get this person to be what I want them to be, so I'm going to accept them for what they are and work with that. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my favorite scenes to write.
And it's
that's so cool. That's so cool.
And I think that's a tribute to great writing, because if those characters came together and behaved the way you behaved at any moment before this, it would have been false. It wouldn't have worked. You had to be at the brink of your pushing point, pushed to your very limits. And what's great about this scene is Ava Sarala, a lot of times that we see her early on, she is manipulating, she's playing. This is the most honest that you see her in the face of your enemy. And you have this exchange, and you see that in the scene. You see it, and you're like, "Oh my God!" Like Drummer responds to that, because you see through bullshit, unlike anybody, you know.
Drummer does immediately. That's why Ava Sarala is playing her last card on her last leg, telling her the truth. Yeah. When she says, "What if you're lying?" And Ava Sarala says, "I have given your people many reasons to believe that to hate me, but none to believe that I'm a liar." Mm-hmm. I think it's there and then that the Drummer truly believes that, hey, look, she's telling me the truth. she really means it.
Yeah.
Let's get together.
Yeah.
And I love the camaraderie.
And
between
the
two
way
of them.
we shot that scene too, it was so amazing. I mean, just to be like, thank God, I got to just be still because I was like, oh my God, so I'm like standing very, very still. Got that moment to focus, and then you come like swooping around and like you're, like long. I mean, all your costumes are always so fabulous, but to witness them in person and to have to like really keep your shit together, acting opposite is like.
I have to apologize for that. That's Avasarala. She needs to intimidate people the moment she arrives, and then
I love it.
So
I love
I
it.
do
Oh,
apologize.
it's a thrill. It's a thrill because it does. I mean, it does. Of course, that's part of her.
She's still the same person
Yes.
with different ideas.
My favorite description of that is that Avasarala wears a gown the way Drummer wears a gun.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
the tools of their trade.
Totally.
To talk about
that's so
process
cool.
for a
That's
minute,
so cool.
how do you create that? All the gestures, even when you're in a meeting, and this might be a later episode. This is a later episode, so I'll be vague about it. But you have this monster decision that you have to make, and you need to think, and your people around you, and you just go, like that. And they go, all right. And they go, wow, how did they do that? Like, where does that? How do you put that character work in your physicality?
The moment I put her shoes on, I even behave differently. It's hard to explain, but knowing the character never backs up, always, with a straight spine, standing up, talking to people, going ahead, no matter, doesn't care who says what. So the moment I put her dress and her shoes on, I feel like there's a responsibility here. She's on my shoulder, and I really have to sort of act accordingly. And then the rest just comes natural. Like, where am I coming from? Whatever has happened in the past. Where did we start this from? Okay. A shrewd politician turned into a woman who's trying to understand her people. Now she's lost, alone, lost her family, lost her job, and she's still not letting go of this because she either dies or carry on. And okay, then she's as strong as ever before, because she needs to be. Otherwise, she has this feeling that if she plays a mouse, the cat will eat her. Mm-hmm. So therefore, no matter what's happening inside her, the core or face, or that stoic face that we never see her smile for 7 years, 6 seasons.
Well, in the book, we call it the mask. That Avasarala wears the mask, and there's a conversation where she's talking to her husband. She's come back, and her husband's there, and he says, "Is the mask heavy today?" Because he knows that what this is a projection.
I felt that,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And she's wearing this face, a stoic face, because she needs to, that poker face
Yep.
that no one can read or tell what she's up to.
Just to kind of zoom out a little bit, what I would like to talk is about the beginning of your journey as drummer and towards the end of the drummer, and how is drummer different from when you started? What has she learned up to this point where we get to this scene now? I like to ask big questions like this and just stare.
That's good.
What are you gonna say?
Those are great
I think what
questions,
she learned was when you can space Marco, space Marco.
You could have ended this. God. So, being that this is this might be the last time we ever talk to each other again.
Oh, how dramatic.
No, but I think what I want to do, I want to say, I had a moment where I talked about your performance, but one thing I want to say about you is I had an acting teacher once named Sandra Seacat, and we were in class and we were talking about, acting, and she says, if all these things that we worry about, all these you have to let go, if you just put your head down and study and work hard and be undeniable, then everything will fall in place. And you are an example of that. Because when we first had Cara Gee on and first had drummer, and your role was nowhere near what it became, and I remember seeing it and was like, Jesus Christ, this girl's good. And Ty, obviously they had that. And so just focusing on doing your work and being undeniable, and people seeing that, and created this character that has become one of probably my favorite character. I've said it over and over, drummer's my favorite character.
Can I add one thing to that before we ask the next question?
Yes.
Because we talked about this yesterday with Narain. There was a moment we were watching the dailies of your first scenes, and you're with Fred, and you're with Thomas Jane, and those scenes. He was watching the dailies, and he was like, "Oh, she's so stiff. What's going on here?" And then he had this moment, like this light switch came on. He's like, "Oh, she's playing drummer as English as second language character." Like English is not her native language, and so she's very stiff and formal. Because the moment was when you were talking to Naomi and you switched to belter, and it's musical and fluid and beautiful. And he goes, "I get what she's doing. Oh my God, she's amazing!" And from then on, we were locked in. Yep.
Oh, that's really nice.
That kind of detail and that, the kind of work that you put into it. But from this epic journey that drummers had, how is she different from when we first see her till now?
I think we see her limits just constantly being tested. And so she has grown and become even, stronger. When we meet her in season 2, she's working under Fred Johnson. And we imagine that, she's had a past. She's already pretty tough. There's, of course, that epic scene where she just fucking rocks those 2 guys that shot her, right? And it's like, okay, this is who this woman is.
Love that scene.
I know, it's so good. It's so good. I feel like as the war unfolds the way that it does, and as everything that, goes on with Marco, and she reaches a limit. She reaches the limit of being able to work under Fred Johnson. And she cannot compromise. She just physically cannot compromise. It's just not possible for her. And so when Fred is, giving the Earthers that, back channel information, and it leads to the death of a Belter ship, nope, cannot do that. I cannot do that. But doesn't want to work under Ashford. She doesn't want to work under Dawes. She would rather, and we see her try her hand at, maybe I'll just step away from this whole thing. And I think she's happy for 30 seconds in season 5, with her family, and she's making a nice life for herself, but she just keeps getting pulled back into the struggle, into the fight. So as she learns where her limits are, I think she becomes harder. I think she becomes, it's funny because I want to say more empty, and it's almost like her heart is more empty, but she's still just very full of purpose. So it's this weird, she almost doesn't have her own soul anymore. She's got how she can be of use to her people, and she's running on empty. She's lost love. She doesn't have that same soul. I truly had that feeling of feeling like she's already dead in season 6. She is like Marco, inevitable. She's just created by these circumstances and battered down to be this raw nerve. But because of her position and her, I guess because of just the essence of who she is, she ends up being the only person to fill the role that she does. I think there's no one else like her in the whole universe.
Well, I mean, the classic, she was forged in fire and she's hard as steel now.
Yeah.
And you need those people.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the similarities, because you're talking about wearing the mask, and the only time I think I've really saw a drummer truly vulnerable, she did have other moments, is with you and Naomi.
Yeah.
And you have that moment of really feeling all your choices are gone. Your back is against the wall. And seeing you take the mask off for just a little bit.
Yeah, and it's excruciatingly painful.
Yeah.
And the only person who could evoke that in her is Naomi. That's the only person, That's why it's such a punch in the face when she's waiting for her at the ship.
I love your x-rays,
she's going to
by the
make me
way.
feel something. Oh, yeah.
I love your x-rays. We talked a
Thanks.
little bit about x-rays,
It's
and
interesting.
you guys got a real treat coming with drummer and Naomi's x-ray.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
So what about you, Avasarala?
Well,
Because this is a really...
the consistency of the show never allowed Avasarala to step out or in. She was always in her position, in her key position. Even when she loses it, she does not believe in it. She's like, nah, hocus pocus.
We've had some moments. The moment where she is called back to service knowing that her husband is dead. And
Yes.
she's putting her necklace on her hands.
Oh,
so she-
yeah.
I think the consistency with the Basarala is that she does what needs to be done in spite of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. Because remember, it's episode 2, if I'm not mistaken. Season 1, she's on the roof, joined by her grandson. The grandson says, "Are you afraid of the rocks?" She goes, "No, I'm afraid of the ones who throw the rocks."
Yeah.
Season 6, we're still dealing with Marco, who's throwing the rocks. This time covered with a stealth shot.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have such amazing writers that show you the path and give
Amazing writers, anti.
and the novelist.
Yeah, I like to be included.
And the novelist.
You guys sitting right next to you. You got to include them.
Yeah.
Well, you gave birth to it. That's it, didn't you?
Well,
You brought it to this world, so no matter what, you're always
more
there.
like I made it out of Play-Doh.
Yes, such sophisticated, complicated, so-called science fiction. By the way, day one when we started, I kept saying, "Why science fiction, for God's sake?" They said, "Because it takes place within a couple of 100 years from now. We don't like to give certain time out, right?" And I was saying, why not futuristic? Because it looks very much like immediate future. Last year, season 6, I had a feeling that I was right. It is no longer a science fiction because season 6 is closer to reality of today's world than ever before. So why did we call it a science fiction? Just because of the
Because there's
the genre?
spaceships and
I think at some
I know,
point,
I know,
if the
I
show
know.
continues, it stops being science fiction and just a drama. Just like a documentary of what's happening.
I'm always like, it's a political thriller. Okay.
It is indeed.
With spaceships.
A
With
political
spaceship.
thriller with spaceships.
That's the only reasons that we call it.
people like to categorize things. People like boxes. So
Okay.
there's a box called science fiction, and people put stuff in there, and our show goes in there too.
So we were boxed. But do you believe that season 6 reminds you of today's world a lot? I mean, proto-molecule. When we started,
We're trying to go to Mars.
We're trying to go to Mars. The refugee crisis,
Yeah.
which is
The climate.
the climate.
Indigenous people wanting clean water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a new thing.
But
It's
still,
a current
But
thing.
it's current. We
Still.
still don't have it.
one of the dilemmas of the world, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's incredible. For me, it was an amazing journey, especially season 6. I had seen similarities, parallels to this world in seasons before. Like when I was reading the debate between Lily Gao and Avasarala, the TV was on, it was on CNN, and I was watching it with the corner of my eye with no sound, of course. And all of a sudden I saw Nancy Pelosi wearing a nice, beautiful red coat, Chanel length, pair of dark glasses and bob cut, and I thought, of course she wants to look young and relevant, and because she's going to debate with this young woman, Avasarala should do the same thing. So I immediately sent an email to Joanne, and I said, "Joanne, can you make me more feminine this time?" And then I asked hair and makeup too. It was for the first time that Avasarala let her hair down.
Oh, wow.
But
Interesting.
tell you a secret. Right in the middle of this debate, and I remember you were at the end of the theater watching us. I was Avasarala. I was sitting there having this debate with her, and all of a sudden, it's so hard to explain. Avasarala inside me was like, "Why did you change your dress? Why did you make me look like this? Why did you do that?" And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have a fit here. And I'm like, "Woman, leave me alone. This is the best way of doing this." Nancy Pelosi did the same thing.
And I was like, who's Nancy Pelosi?
She was so angry with me.
Right.
Yeah.
But the similarities, the parallels to this world.
But isn't that one of the main purposes of genre science fiction in particular, is to be able to examine what's happening in our current time and culture?
It gives us permission to examine things like racism and economic disparity and things like that without stealing somebody's actual lived experience. If Daniel and I write some books about how much it sucks to be a minority in America, we're just stealing somebody else's experience for our book. But if we make people belters, and belters are made up of every ethnic group on Earth, so we're not taking one ethnic group and singling them out. then it gives us permission to talk about it. And it gives the audience permission to watch it. Nobody has to feel stolen from. It's okay, but it still allows you to think about what's happening in a way that then maybe might apply to the current day. It might give you a little bit of insight on what's going on without directly attacking you. When science fiction is doing what it's supposed to do, that's the best version of it. We're trying to do that. I don't know if we're succeeding or not, but it's the thing that you're trying to do.
It's so true. You're right. This is what I have noticed too. With science fiction, animation, cartoons, your hands are open. You can tackle all sorts of issues, political, social, whatever. People won't get offended. They won't think that you're talking about them.
Yeah.
They're saying, oh, this is in science fiction, that's in animation, cartoon. But it goes straight into the subliminals. And that's what we, perhaps, those who are working with these genres are hoping for, that let's send our messages out this way without getting them upset or offended or think about that we're talking about a certain race or this or that.
I think it's interesting too because, I mean, this show has such a diverse cast and that's not an accident. That would have to be purposeful and intentional because otherwise it wouldn't happen. And I remember early on being at a brunch with Dom and Frankie and Nadine and Jess Salguero. And we were sitting there and we were looking around the table at each other and we were like, oh yeah, in any other show, there would be room for one of us. And here we are, all of us on the same show. And I think that that's another sort of way to be able to talk about, you know, what does leadership look like? What does it feel like? What does a powerful figure feel like to us, you know? And when you see the same people playing the same powerful figures over and over, you know, that really cements that idea of what is possible. And I think with this show, you know, we're suggesting a whole other way of looking after each other and looking after ourselves, you know, having powerful women of color running the show. Oh, we've never tried that, actually. You know, we've never tried that. You know, might be a little different. That's a, you know, what else is there? And I think that that's another beautiful thing about this genre is that it's what else is possible.
Yeah, at its best, that is the question we're always asking, is what else is possible?
Yeah.
Is what we have now the only thing that can be?
Yes, but we should really be thankful to you and Daniel for putting all these female roles in a key position. Like when I heard that Naomi was the engineer, I thought if it was 10 years ago, most probably Holden would have been the engineer. But now she is the engineer. What was
You know I'm married to an engineer, right?
I know, of course.
Well, and don't give us too much credit. Yeah, we did that in the books,
there.
but Narain Shankar, the showrunner, was very committed to that idea and very supportive. And our studio Alcon, Sharon Hall, who developed the show the first season, she was very committed to that idea. And so when we ran into small roadblocks, which I have heard from other people, a lot of productions just go, oh, well, we can't do it then. Sharon and Narain and the studio and the show pushed through and said, no, we're going to do it anyway. And once everybody got on board and everybody understood this is what we're going to do, then the roadblocks suddenly weren't there anymore. Like, it was like everybody, well, they're going to knock this roadblock down, so we might as well not put it in the way. And it just got easier and easier as it went, which is great. And credit to everybody who was involved, the casting agents, everybody. They were all on board once we explained, this is what we're doing.
And that's what it takes. That's what it takes is for you guys with that power to say, we want to do it this way.
Yeah, and give Sharon and Narain the credit.
Yeah. No, and power to them because, I mean, I lost out on a role once and they told me this, that they really, really loved me for it, but they already had a half Asian person on the show.
Oh my God.
Also, it was like a medical procedural show. I'm like, are you serious? But like, this is a real thing. That
What were their names? What was the show?
Right? Yeah. Right? Let's fucking name some names. I mean, last laugh. I'm very famous now. Fine. But yeah, I mean, this is still like a very real obstacle.
Yeah.
But, you know, this show that would have to be intentional.
I think a great way to wrap this up, you know, you talk about being right earlier. You've always been right in everything you said. And I'll give an example of this. We hadn't even said words to each other yet.
No, we were touring the set.
We were touring.
It was our first day.
Yes, it was our first
They
day.
gave us safety hats.
Right.
And we were in line.
So before
going
we
to
shot,
tour. We didn't even I don't
No,
remember.
because what happened was before we even shot one frame of season 1, episode 1, we come together. We were, and before we were doing anything, our first thing is they wanted to walk us through the sets,
Yes.
right? So we walk up as a group. You were already there. We were putting helmets on, hard hats on the sets, whatever, and you were there. And
In my accent only.
No, I
your
can't. I
accent.
can't. I
That's
can't
such a
do
good
the thing.
job.
But you're putting your
Try
hat
it.
on. We're putting your. I'm putting my hat on, and then they just have us go in this thing because I was a little late, so we were going up this scaffolding, and I was walking behind you, and you were walking up front, and you were looking around at all the sets and everything that they were building, and all the Expanse universe, and you turn around and you go, 5 years minimum. And I go, what? You go, 5 seasons. And you go, 5 seasons. She said that at the beginning, before we shot frame 1, episode 1. And this is a business that we all know. We've all been a part of a lot of
5
shows
years
that don't, like a show
minimum.
going 5 years is a
Yeah.
big deal.
But the Queen has spoken.
Yes.
The universe listens.
Yeah.
The universe is like,
Yeah.
well, the Queen decided, so.
Even
we
when
gotta
we
make it
were
happen.
going through craziness, I would call her Visraj. She goes,
Yeah.
5 years.
5 years
minimum.
minimum.
Yeah.
And you were right. So I think a perfect way to end this is, what is the future of
The
of
future
this?
is, although everybody keeps saying, this is the end, this is our last meeting, this is it. I do not agree with you guys. I'm terribly sorry.
Well, the Queen has spoken.
I don't think
Queen
this
has
is the end.
spoken.
And swear to God, don't you think that somebody has given me a tip or something? I have no idea. I don't know what's going to happen next. But deep down, in my heart, nah, this is not the end. I'm sorry, I'm not going to take this. But try to shove it down my throat. Nah, this is not the end.
The Queen has spoken. Thank you guys so much. My 2 favorite characters.
Yes,
I
loved
get to hang
working
out.
with you.
Yeah.
I hope one day I would be able, if possible, to work with this amazing actor, gentleman, and dear friend again.
Why are you looking at
Yeah.
Ty? He's not going to be with us.
Yeah.
If he has,
I don't think he's going to last in business. I don't think that kid has a future.
if he has any idea, I totally, and you, Cara.
I know. I'm
It was
so
an honor
glad we
and
got to
pleasure
do this.
work with both of you. And I'm going to root for you in the future.
Yes.
Sitting in my chair going, Wes, Cara,
Yeah,
Cara,
yeah,
Wes,
yeah,
Wes,
yeah.
Cara. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you guys for hanging out. This is episode 5, season 6 of The Expanse. We got to hang out with my 2 favorite characters. And say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.
Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.